Hey everybody, watching my parents get older has been like watching a preview of what's to come when I get to my 80s or 70s, because that's what we talked about with some friends of mine recently who are my age, and we're just talking about watching our parents get older and thinking to ourselves, what's the old folks home going to look like when we get there, because they're playing Sinatra and stuff like that, and here we are going to be playing Judas Priest, Madonna, Bon Jovi, and all those types of music. It's going to be wild. But on a serious matter, for many years my parents avoided the conversations about getting old, because that meant death. And I can understand the apprehension, especially in my culture. They never like to talk about that because it's very suspicious and superstitious. So at 57, I started to ask myself an uncomfortable question. And, I asked, am I quietly heading to the same future as my parents? And in this video, I want to share some of the warnings I've taken from watching my parents age, and what can I do differently at 57 so I don't repeat the same mistakes that they did. So my parents didn't like to talk about aging. And I believe, as uncomfortable it is, that we need to talk about this matter. My wife talked, and I talked about, long-term care and so forth for us, because, we don't have kids. And, there's a belief that, kids will take care of you when you get older. And from my experience, that's not always the case. You're lucky if they take care of you, right? And, my parents, they never talked about this stuff, about, what they're going to do for long-term care until recently, when things are starting to go south and their body's starting to betray them. So I think we really need to have this conversation in our 50s or even earlier about this and start to plan for it. And I think that'll alleviate a lot of fears, at least it did for me, about, getting old. And the second thing I noticed from my parents is, health. They didn't really take care of their health when they were my age. And I think they kind of just assumed that aging was just a part of life, and that it's something that is just going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. And while that is true, there's many things that you can do to, lessen the chances of you getting ill or worse. I mean, just losing your independence. And so I think my parents, because they didn't take their health as seriously, I know for some of my relatives, is that they missed the boat when it comes to enjoying their life. And I think, I don't think they realize how quickly your health can deteriorate. Like my father, he was actually quite healthy the last couple of years, and then suddenly one day, he started to not be able to walk, and he was having to steady himself, every time he was walking or stood up. And I, tried to suggest to him to use a cane, and he was in denial, and he would have none of it. So, you worry about those things because he's fallen at times. And I often wonder if he had, did some weight training when he was in his 50s, that he wouldn't be in this situation right now, and he would be a lot stronger. I'm pretty sure he would be, right? Because the studies back this. But yeah, so, don't take your health for granted. It could just turn on a dime just like that, and everything can change. And I think, now I try to get my mom to come on out and visit me. And it's always the same thing the past 2 years is, oh, son, it's not fun anymore. You know, I can only walk 10 minutes without hurting. Your dad is not stable at times, and it's she said to me, what are we gonna do anyway? I mean, just sit in your house all day and just watch TV. They said it's better for us to stay home and just not be a burden on you guys. And it breaks my heart because, you know, they work hard all their lives, and I want to see them enjoy it. But they waited till later in life to enjoy their life instead of trying to enjoy as they were working. So the other thing I learned was that I had to learn to break the guilt cycle when it came to my parents. You know, I care about my parents, and I'll do anything to make sure that their final years are the best, and you know, at least happy as it can be. But I think what's important is, for many years they didn't kind of respect my boundaries, and I think that caused a lot of tension in our relationships. But once I got to understand, you know, I put in boundaries and they got used to it, they understand that, hey, you know, it's not that I don't care about them, it's just that I have my own life as well that needs to be taken care of first. And if it's an emergency, I'll take care of it. If it's not, then I'll eventually get to it. But since we set boundaries up, the relationship has gotten so much better. And I think that's the one hope that any child can want in a relationship with their parents, especially you've been at odds and estranged for so many years. You know, people ask me about this, you know. I think after so many years of tension between us, you know, how do I feel about it now? And for me, it's, I put myself in their situation, and I thought to myself, you know, when they spent their time working and so forth, they came home tired. I mean, I'm tired when I get home from work, and they still try to do their best to make sure that the kids were fed. And that's not an easy thing. So I think the thing I always say is, hey, they changed my diaper, now it's my turn to change their diaper. Maybe some of you guys don't feel that way, and maybe you guys have a relationship with your parent that you don't feel is repairable, but that's just from my experience. I'm not saying that, you know, that I'm right. I'm just sharing my hope that you will end up making peace with your parents. And the other thing that I want to mention is that a lot of this was very consuming for me. You know, getting older, dealing with my changing body, changing energy levels, worrying about retirement, worrying about my parents, if they were healthy, if they were gonna, you know, fall down one day and no one's able to see or hear them. So the other thing I was worried about was, you know, how, you know, who's going to take care of us when we get older and stuff like that. Well, it wasn't really a word for me because like I said, I've always been a lone wolf, something I've been thinking about anyways. So I started to say, you know what, this is really overwhelming to think about all these things all the time, and I just need to just reset. And it's almost to a point where I felt like, you know, the world was closing in on me, and I just wanted to escape, be on an island, and just people leave me alone. So I needed more clarity in my life, and, you know, which part of those things were sucking the energy out of me and consuming so much of my time that I couldn't enjoy my 50s. And I decided, well, you know what, I got to start honing on this and start to change things and design how my life is going to look in the second chapter of my life, because I want to spend it being free, peaceful, because we spent so much of our time just worrying about our responsibilities. And now that we're entering the second part of our life, we want to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor. So what I did was I put a tool together, and it's in the bio, in the description actually, and in the comments section. So if you're needing more clarity in midlife, I highly recommend that you try it out, test it out, and see what you think. It's helped me a lot, and it's the reason why I developed this tool, right? Because it just gave me a path to follow as I enter into the next chapter. So I know many of you probably not comfortable talking about aging. Maybe you guys are in denial. I know some people were talking about they fear that they're running out of time. So I know a lot of you are overwhelmed by all this, but I want you to remind you that making a plan to design how you want your second part of life to look, I think it's not a bad thing to do. And especially after watching your parents age, and it's a big wake-up call. So I want to know from you guys, what is the one lesson, good or bad, from watching your parents age that taught you about what your future is going to look like? Let me know in the comments below. I think this is going to be a good topic. I'd love to hear from all of you. And yeah, if you like this channel and you like the video today, please feel free to like, share, or subscribe. And feel free to check out my next video. And what a beautiful day it is here, and I hope it's a beautiful day in your area as well. Take care, and I'll see you next time.